What if I told you that you could be the very best version of yourself by getting out of your gender box? I watched this happen once early in my career, and it had a very big impact on me. I worked in potash. That's a commodity. When you have too much supply and not enough demand, prices fall and companies lose money. We were bleeding red. They brought in a new CEO. He was from outside the company, outside the country. He was from southern United States, and he talked funny, at least to us. Now, he was a US military man, rife with masculine energy. I called him a walking, talking Viagra tablet. He strode with confidence into our company. He looked at the numbers and he said, "We have to close a mine." People were up in arms. How dare an outsider come in and tell us that he's going to close down one of our mines? Somebody wrote a letter to the editor of the paper, and they said, "This guy can't manage his way out of a pay toilet." Now he was up in arms. He demanded to know who wrote that letter. And what we found is that the address on the letter was accurate, the phone number was accurate, but the name was fictitious. The address and the phone number belonged to one of our hourly paid workers. But he didn't write the letter. His wife did. Now, I expected to see this masculine energy guy dial it up to the extreme and ready himself for battle. Because that's what I've seen from male leaders that far in my career. But he surprised me. Instead of that, he shifted to his feminine energy. He phoned up the woman and invited her for coffee on neutral ground. They met at the Sheraton. And when she arrived, he didn't talk, and instead he listened. He listened as she described the people that were going to have to move, her friends, because he was closing a mine. And then he displayed another feminine energy attribute. He empathized. He shared with her that he had been the son of an hourly paid worker, and they had had to move a lot when he was little. He remembered leaving behind his best friend Billy when he was 7 years old. And he never saw Billy again. By the time that coffee meeting was over, she was his new best friend. She put him on her Christmas card list. More importantly, she went out and told all the other hourly paid workers and their wives that he was doing the best that he could do for the entity. I watched this man become the very best version of himself right before my eyes. And he did it by getting out of his gender box and using the attributes of both genders. And each and every one of us can do that. We all have masculine and feminine energy in us. We just have to give ourselves permission to allow these energies to emerge and work together. You see, we have this idea that men have certain characteristics that are going to make them a certain kind of leader. They're strong, self-sufficient, independent, bottom-line oriented. They're going to take a risk. They're going to take action. And we believe that women have certain characteristics that are going to create a certain kind of leader. They're going to be good listeners, supportive, collaborative, consensual. They're going to draw information out of people. We live in a multifaceted world. We need to be able to use the attributes of the masculine and the feminine, dependent upon the situation, the audience, the circumstances, because if we don't, it limits us. And it's really not our fault. You see, from the time we're little, little boys are encouraged to venture away from their mothers, skin their knees, and little girls are encouraged to sit demurely and politely by. We're rewarded when we live out the stereotype of our gender, and often if we don't, we are rejected. We used to think we had to act this way because there was a male brain and a female brain, and that's why we behaved this way. But now research is proving that wrong. The University of Tel Aviv put 1,400 men and women through an MRI and they looked at their brains. And what they discovered is that those brains that we used to think were the male and the female, they're fewer than 1%. Our brains are made up of a myriad of characteristics, and just like the retinas of our eyes or our fingerprints, they're totally unique and don't have characteristics that flag them as being masculine or feminine. So why would we want to give up being totally unique by being the individual selves that we are to squeeze ourselves into a gender box? I can tell you this research was not a surprise to me, because ever since I watched that CEO early in my career, I started using the attributes of both genders too. We bought a company down in southern United States. These guys didn't want to report to a Canadian, much more a Canadian woman. I tried to take them out for dinner, cajole them, charm them, nothing worked. Finally, I got on an airplane, I flew down there, I took them out behind the woodshed, and I told them who was boss. Thank you. And after I exposed my masculine energy and used it, they fell in line. Another time, I led with my masculine energy with a tough customer, and I needed his business. I told him factually why we were the best product for him. I was very direct. I asked for the order. I didn't get to first base. I switched to my feminine energy. I started forming a relationship. I started buying him wild ties and told him that when he got out of his box, he'd be happy to buy product from us, and he did. I secured the business. You see, I learned that as a woman, if I wanted to be considered a leader, I had to exhibit the characteristics of the masculine, because we consider all those characteristics to be interchangeable with leadership. But then I also realized that I had to cloak all those attributes with being the attributes that we consider to be feminine. I had to be nurturing and a good listener and supportive, because that's what I needed to do to be liked and accepted. So each and every one of us have this ability to use both energies. It's no different than drawing water from a tap. We turn on the hot when we want to take a relaxing bath. We turn on the cold when we want to quench our thirst. It's still H2O. It's just a slightly different form. So you can use your masculine and your feminine, and it'll still be you being you. You'll just be using the right energy for the circumstance, the audience, and the situation. I invite you to boycott the thought that you are a man or a woman and that this is the reason that you act the way that you do. Because each and every one of us have both these energies in us. And we can be far better versions of ourselves by using them both. If until now you've thought of yourself as only a man or only a woman, you're using only half the actions and options available to you. When you could unlock the other wing, you'd be like a bird trying to fly on one wing. If you unlock the other wing, you can fly further and higher and faster, and you can be the very best version of yourself. Thank you.